People have said a lot of things and agreed and disagreed to a lot of facts, but there is one fact, and that is data doesn't lie. But what is key is that data gives you information in the way that you extract it, design it, and interpret it. So for data, for large data sets to be useful and meaningful, it is much more important that it is presented in a variety of ways. So this is what we are going to discuss today. And as I've been introduced, I'm Sana Quadri. I'm as a chartered accountant. Having spent over 13 years on data in the financial services industries, there came a time when I founded this online training platform by the name of EdWatch. And operating from USA and Pakistan, we have been working with financial services and some data-driven companies. We're trying to skill their staff to fulfill their data needs. And, to fulfill their data needs and obviously to construct a convincing story out of their data. So I have with me, very knowledgeable presenters, people who represent diverse industry. So I'd like to call on stage Ms. Asma Zeeshan. Please welcome Ms. Asma Zeeshan. She's basically the head of sales, B2B sales in Telenor. Then we have Mr. Hafeez Shah. He's the CIO of Sapphire Finishing Mills. Then we have Mr. Syed Zeeshan Ali. He's the CIO of Outfitters. We have Zain Ahmad Khawaja. He is the head of internal audit at ICI. And then we have, last but not the least, Mubashir Amjad. He's the CIO of Pepsi. We don't have enough. How would you define diversity in terms of data analytics?
Okay, so Assalamu alaikum again, everyone. We've talked a lot about data analytics. So this topic, diversity in data analysis, does not mean gender diversity, and I'm not only representing gender here in data analytics. So data analytics is a very powerful tool these days, which helps organizations, we've discussed that, which helps organizations to bring that information, that relevant information on the table, and based on that, they take certain decisions. Why diversity is important and what is diversity means bringing different point of views on the table. So which includes, number one, gender diversity, number two, experience, having different experienced people on the table, and number three, different cultures, having people from different cultures, different organizations. So when we have that mix of people on the table who actually deals with that raw data, so the output becomes really interesting. And why is it so? They come up with a different point of view, with an innovative approach, that how to connect and how to correlate different data points, because there's a lot of data in organizations and raw data does not mean anything. And when we take inputs from these different diversified individuals from their point of view, then the output which comes after the correlation becomes meaningful for predictive analysis, for designing of products, for deciding that where the investments should go on. So I believe this is very important that we bring different point of views on the table in data analytics to make it more fruitful and productive.
Thank you very much for mentioning the fact that diversity is not just about gender diversity, although this is a problem. But yeah, taking this forward, Hafeez, how would you say that how do we benefit from diversity in data analytics? ये तो हम कहते हैं कि diversity होनी चाहिए. What are the benefits actually?
Yeah, so basically I think when we talk about the diversity or inclusion, I think this is not restricted to the data analysis only or the data. But I believe that, it's not a good to have thing, but a must to have, I think, phenomena now in the overall world, that the companies, they want to, have diversified, team members in all of their, across all departments. So I believe that same philosophy applied to the team that within an organization who's working on the data part, right? So from my perspective, I think the very unique thing about having a diversified team is bringing different perspective actually from different people, from different age group, from different gender, and obviously, people having different characteristics. So I think when you put a lot of perspective into something, I think that give you a better output in result.
एक broader vision आपको देता है.
Exactly.
A holistic view.
Exactly.
So moving forward, Zeeshan, my question to you would be, what are the decision factors when we are, creating a diverse team? What should be considered?
Yes, thank you. Well, first of all, I think, as we've already discussed as well, experience is definitely a must. So people having experience in demystifying data. You see, you have a lot of data that's out there, and my colleagues in the telecos and other industries have already discussed that there's a huge chunk of data that's being generated on a daily basis from all the devices that are interconnected, right? So people that have experience in demystifying data is definitely a very critical factor. Secondly, it's not really important to have like-mindedness, but the differences of opinion is very important to drive a business forward. So people who can actually present the case and argue on factors that benefit a business and understand the nature of the sources that are generating the data and eventually present the end result is also important. So maybe summing it up in that manner is that setting the ultimate goals is very important in having a team. See, we don't have much challenges within Pakistan because we're not like multicultural like in the Middle East. So we have domestic, some sort of ethnic differences. We have religious and political differences. But apart from that, creating a diverse team and including people in those teams is not as much as a big challenge as we have probably in the Middle East. Of course, we do have religious differences, for example, and lineages. And that translates into the type of business that you are running or the product that you are selling. Like, for example, I worked in the mutual fund industry, and when pension funds were being launched, we could not understand why religiously inclined consumers were not going for conventional products, right? So, so in order to analyze the data, then we had to do the combing activity and look at the areas of the cities where there's high lineage towards some sort of religious ethnicity. And then eventually Islamic kind of products were launched. And I'm sure many of you would also know, even your Provident Fund over the past around a decade or so now gives you the option to leverage growth through Islamic investments rather than conventional. So a whole lot of factors play in when selecting the right teams and onboarding members into the data analytics stream. And that not only is restricted to your religious or your the political affiliations or genders, but it's also the lateral thinking mindset that people can bring on the table. Something that's called cognitive. Difference of opinion. People having difference of opinion is very important as well in creating a diverse and really inclusive team.
So this is what basically I take from your comments is that the organization has to look A into its goals and B depending on the environment it operates, right?
Yes.
So we've talked about diversity. Zain, I'd like you to comment on what are the challenges? Now we know that diverse teams are needed, they contribute a lot. What are the challenges for inclusion?
Thank you. I think one of the biggest challenges is we talk a lot about diversity, but we often fail to measure the impacts and benefits of diversity. So when you include more people and more diverse people on one platform, on one forum, in an organization, you also have to put in extra effort to make them feel included. Because unless they feel included, diversity will be counterproductive. So if there are people with different mindsets, different backgrounds, and we are not making conscious effort to make them feel included within the team or the organization or the group that we are talking about, it would be counterproductive because they would not be able to understand how to disagree and have different point of views and yet respectfully understand each other's perspective. And I think the other very important thing is sometimes intent only is not enough. Just because I want to have a diverse and included team, diversified and inclusive team, and I'm thinking I am doing everything, I am not making anyone feel unwelcome, yet a lot of people with diverse backgrounds would feel unwelcome unless you are putting in real effort. And where is that effort required? You have to understand what they like, what they do not like. For example, I can give you an example. We did a joint venture with a Japanese organization. It's one of the leading organizations in infant formula milk. We did one with Morinaga. So we had to go through a lot of trainings to understand how to interact with Japanese people and the Japanese culture. So despite having good intent, unless we knew those protocols and we knew what they like and what they dislike, we would have extremely offended them if we just went in without putting in the actual effort. Just like that, when we are engaging with people with different sectarian or religious backgrounds, until we really put in a lot of solid effort of what we need to do to make them feel more included. And we also have to understand we don't know it all. So we can't say that because somebody is from a different background, I'm going to do this differently. We have to ask them, we have to make them part of that decision-making process, and we have to sort of make them feel included, what we are going to do differently, and make them feel more welcome. So I think that's very important.
So basically, not just ensuring the teams are diverse, we also have to ensure the organizations and the team leads must ensure that there is awareness to how to encourage inclusion, and we also need to create a culture that's more welcoming to diversity. So again, from a concluding point of view, if Mubashir, you could share how do we create diverse teams and encourage inclusion?
Okay, thank you so much. First of all, before answering that question, if we just zoom out, okay, so we should be sure about the objective which we are trying to achieve. Okay, the objective is, in terms of data analytics, how can diversity play a role in creating a richer content for the audience? Okay, so given that, now we all understand, if we have people from diverse backgrounds, diverse age groups, then of course you will have more ideas, and more ideas will give a richer content. Now, apart from this, because data analytics is also around tools as well. Okay, so for me, I think it's very important when you are also looking after people who have worked on different tools. Okay, so we have SAP, SAC, we have Power BI, Click, Oracle, Excel, even Excel. Okay, so all that is very important. So once you have brought all those people together, definitely all the good things of each and every person would be able to brought on table. Secondly, I agree inclusion can become a challenge. Okay, because you know, you have people who are thinking differently. Now you have to bring all that information together in a single dashboard. So that's a bigger challenge, okay? So over here, in order to make sure that you are able to create some inclusion, I think it's important that all the data should be presented in form of information which is an overall objective for the organization as well. Okay, so for example, let's talk about a sales dashboard. Okay, so whatever sales dashboard is showing you, I understand sales also has to do with, in my context, okay, so I'm from beverage industry, so it's coolers, it's about your trips to the market, your time in the outlet, your all that information. So all that information coming in a single dashboard has to tell a story. Okay, so that story should be coherent. So if your story is coherent, it's going to give an information which is going to tell us, okay, are we doing good or are we doing bad? Because at the end of the day, looking at a single report, the action which gets triggered should be, should we fix this or should we just appreciate it? Okay? So, and fixing that would require a deeper insight into where do we have to fix things now. So, all I'm trying to say is that whatever information you're providing on a single report or a dashboard, coming in from diverse people, from diverse mindset, different departments, all that should tell a story on a single report so that the report makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah.
But you said about storytelling, right? Yeah. So there's this one more aspect. I actually cover financial storytelling. So for as a better storyteller, you have to be able to communicate to the level of the other person. So don't you think engagement within the departments, multidisciplinary departments is again very important in terms of teams?
Oh, definitely. Okay, so of course, all the different departments do combine and engage together to create a common objective.
Exactly.
Okay, so that common objective should be clear. One other thing which I was trying to also mention was that, okay, so how do we make your information powerful? Okay, so you can have different, as we said, information or data points from different departments. If you want to trigger real action and make that information really powerful, give a score to each and every information. Okay, so when I say that, okay, so it can be percentages, it could be a numeric value. Okay, so when you are able to quantify that information to a particular number, okay, so that number combined with another number and combined with all the numbers on the report is able to give you an overall score. Okay, so that overall score becomes an easier number to understand. Okay, so if you're able to understand that well, then of course, if it's good, you leave it like that, and if it's bad, you can try to fix it. So that overall score can also come in from different departments. Okay, so a supply chain department can have their own efficiency score. A sales department could have their own sales efficiency score, and similarly in finance and then in other departments. So over here, I think my whole idea was that whatever diverse set of information we are trying to present, okay, so it should have a commonality so that people don't become lost when they're seeing the information.
Thank you very much for answering this in detail. So, yeah, would you like to add
Maybe I can add to this. It's very important what you said, that interdisciplinary or cross-disciplinary or cross-functional.
Yeah.
You see, you have the same data set, transactional data that's coming from different sources, and that data set has one perspective of viewing from marketing, who can maybe realign their product strategy, but then that same data set will be used by finance to get into the P&Ls and the costings, right? Yeah. So having a diverse cross-disciplinary or cross-functional team and including them into your overall, data strategy team is also very important.
Yeah. This is especially I mentioned because coming from a finance background, what I have seen as a professional is that many projects fail because some of the departments, most of the departments are working in silos. If you don't go to the level of the other person, you don't understand what that person is looking for. If finance doesn't know what business wants, so that wouldn't basically
I would
serve
like
the
to
purpose.
add on what, so we talked about making it more powerful.
Yeah.
So it is very important. We will talk about that diversity and inclusion is important, what are the challenges, but we are missing one point that from where it's coming, top to bottom. So building it as part of your organizational strategy, because it comes from the top management that they really want to include diversity, to have that inclusion in all their departments, which actually builds that culture where the cross-functional teams collaborate and brings a best output out of these data analytics is very, very important. So we should make this part of our strategy. It's not only IT strategy, it's a business strategy, a company strategy, that yes, we appreciate this inclusion and diversity within all functions.
Yeah.
So I may add into this that I believe that diversity is something that maybe all organizations are working on, but I think the difficult part is to have a real inclusion, because there it comes the real engagement that we were talking about. Because when you engage different people into a scenario that and you listen to them, they feel more value. I think this is also a good tool of employee retention when it comes to even data, because nowadays I think, especially in technology, employee retention is a big challenge. So I think this helps as well. So instead of just getting into the statistical sort of report, I think nowadays people are more focused on user case. So when you are making a user case or storytelling that we are talking about, so for example, for a brand, if I need to finalize a ambassador for one of our brands, right? So instead of just looking into the data, into the tables and playing with that, the use case can be, for example, that which athlete is being more searched on the Google in the last month or so, right? So the thing is that if you will do it in silo, maybe you have one perspective into it, but if you will engage and involve each and every person, right, who is part of that process, I think that will bring a lot of value to the output.
So it's more about broadening the horizons.
एक और चीज़ यह है कि हम थोड़ा सा ये भी बात नहीं करते success of a diverse and inclusive team. I've worked in different organizations in different countries. So in order to have a successful, diverse and inclusive team, we need to also put in the factor of respect. One thing that's very important is that we really don't, as some sort of human nature, we don't respect difference of opinion. And that's important, accepting differences of opinion, and it could be the ultimate goal to look at the data and translate that into reliable and accurate information. But for that, we need to respect what different people say rather than impart our own knowledge or our own authority over the overall inclusive team.
Okay. Yeah. Go on.
I think what everybody said, I completely agree. And one thing that we really need to understand, why are we talking about diversity and inclusion? The end goal, especially for corporations, is to maximize profits. So how does diversity and inclusion really play a role in that? And I think for that, the most important part is what Mubashir also said, that you can create richer experiences. When you have more and diverse people in the team who think, who have different perspectives and who think differently, you can create something which can be useful for more people. So I can give you an example that, especially from a data science perspective, that we took up at ICI, because we are in different industries, in textiles, large-scale manufacturing, chemicals, pharmaceuticals, and it's a very, it's a huge organization. So, and every time IT was creating these, or technology department was creating these dashboards, the understanding between different functions, different layers in the organization of the same data was different. So we took up this project of creating analytical champions, where we trained technology solutions of simple front-end visualizations tools, also an understanding of how data works, to a lot of aspirants in different functions and different businesses. And how it worked for us, that when more people, about 200 plus people, understood how these dashboards work and what these visualizations represent, they were able to sort of become a part of that journey and develop these insights along with us. And when we worked together, the output that was created was richer, and more people could comprehend it, and more people could understand that was being created. Initially, it was just IT, so it wasn't as impactful, it wasn't as useful, but we actually saw that transition, that when finance, engineering, marketing, sales were working on one data set to come up with some insights, they were able to create things that IT alone was not able to come up with.
So basically, to conclude, as would say that diversity is actually key to analysis, because each one of us are coming from different backgrounds. And when we come from different backgrounds, we have different set of beliefs, education, and this is how we actually add value to any solution that we are providing. So just to conclude our discussion, I'd just like to talk about a list of priorities that the organizations must be thinking, must be working on in terms of diversity and inclusion. So, yeah.
I think, by the way, I'd just like to add a comment over here. All this, what we are talking about in terms of diversity of information, data, people, and how do you look at data, do the analysis, it is a top-down effort, by the way.
Yeah.
Okay, so because if at the top people don't want to change, it's never going to happen. So, for example, I'll just give you an example. I'm sorry, I'm giving this example. It's a real example. Okay, so the CEO, okay, the chairman of the company. Okay, so he wants to see that information which he's been seeing for the past 30 years in the same format which he has been receiving, and he does not want any single change. Even a column of change irritates him. Okay, because he's been used to doing. And so that is the way he has managed all his work entire life. So it's difficult for him to accept diversity or that is adversity for him, I would say. Okay, so these are the challenges. Okay, so in terms of bringing acceptability in diversity of reports, I think a lot of awareness also needs to happen at the top. Okay, so that is a comment. Okay, so we all need to work on that.
I can totally relate to what you are saying. Yeah. Finance will be ऐसा था ना, if you prepare a new report, जैसे वो जो पिछली वाली थी ना वो ही चाहिए.
Exactly.
Anyway, so conclude this. Asma, would you like to add something? I mean, what the list of priorities should be in terms of where the organizations should be working?
Okay, so as I mentioned earlier, that it should come from the top, it should be part of the diversity and inclusion, should be part of the business strategy, and then it should trickle down in all departments. And if I talk about my organization, I'm from Telenor, and we show a good number of diversity, not in terms of only gender, but in terms of different backgrounds as well. I can give my example. I've been heading technical operations, completely different what I've been doing right now, heading corporate sales. So, having that culture in the organization where they give that flexibility to individuals, where they can bring different point of view in different departments, can always bring innovative ideas. And being in a very modern and faster industry, that's the time of the need. So, thank you.
So, how do we do that? We start hiring more people. New Hafeez, you want to add?
Yeah, I think obviously right people for the right job.
Yeah.
So one of the challenge in our industry is that whenever even there is a IT project, even application project, right, we are expecting that the same teams who are running the business, they will participate a lot into this project. However, there is a lot of complexity and in terms of change management is required, but we are not allocating people just to do that project in that period of time, to make it more beneficial to not only to the company but to also to meet the expectations of the stakeholders. So I think yes, definitely I think organization, they need to add people who are core data scientists or data experts. Even even we are running a over SAP S/4HANA. So we have, dedicatedly defined a role of a data manager, right? Because it is very much required, especially in our industry. So I think this is one thing. Just to, give a comment on what should be done, I think any company should follow the mantra of, starting with that in mind, right? So the clarity needs to be there, right? Nowadays, people talk about, yes, data, we want to be a data-driven organization, but unfortunately, I believe that there are very few who are really following the data to make their decisions, right? So yes, I think what exactly is the data strategy? Because I think there are core elements like, I believe, the data, the people, and the technology, right? So these are the core elements of making any strategy. And it should be very clear from the beginning that we will be looking for the backward or the forward. So if I'm talking about the backward, that means I'm looking into the diagnostic thing or statistical again, right? But if I'm talking about the forward, then I'm talking about the predictive, right? Or autonomous, right? So I think such clarities need to be there for any organization to, develop their data strategy. So this is from my side.
Thank you, Zeeshan. So we need to hire more new people who have new skills. What about the people who have been there, who are more experienced, who are more, reliable in organizations? What would you say about that?
Yeah, so basically, change is of course very important. So people should evolve in their way of thinking, in their way of looking at information. One thing very important that I've also mentioned, that experience in working with data, demystifying the data into meaningful information, and of course having cognitive ability is very important. और सबसे बड़ी बात ये भी है ना कि डेटा से घबराना नहीं चाहिए. बड़ा हमने ये भी देखा है कि अपनी फूड इंडस्ट्री में फॉर एग्जांपल हमें ये पता है कि आफ्टर ईद उल फितर एक स्लम्प आता है डिज़र्ट्स के सारे मिक्सेस में. नाउ समबडी जिसको हमने well we onboarded a few people who were new in the data mindset. तो उनको एकदम से people start raising hue and cry and raising alarms that there's a slump in sales. But the fact of the matter is, this is a historical trend that after every, for example, Eid al-Fitr, there is always a slump in sales for the sweets, in the sweet kind of flavors like kheer and custards. So people who have capability to analyze trends is also very important in order to reach the conclusive goals, the ultimate goals that the team is set out to deliver upon.
So, yeah, Zain, how do we keep the experienced and, more reliable people close to us and, let them keep on still adding value to the organization?
I think a consistent effort to upskilling people is very important because we talk about a lot of iteration, and oftentimes why people are iterating is because they are not getting developed and they are not getting the opportunities to develop themselves. So I think upskilling is one area that's going to help us develop internal pipelines. It's also going to help us with succession, and that can also help us get a newer perspective to things. So my concluding remarks would be that diversity is very important, but again, for every organization there has to be a goal why they want diversity, and that understanding of why and communication of that why across the organization of why they want to have more diverse teams should be very clear. And once that is defined, then the second part is how to sustain that diversity, and I think inclusivity is going to be paramount to make sure that we can get the benefits from that diversity that we want.
Yeah, Mubashir.
Yeah, I think we already talked about this. So while we are creating diversity in information for data analysis, we need to make sure that what is common in between all of that, that needs to be reflected on the data analysis so that people don't get lost. Yeah.
So that pretty much concludes our discussion. If you have any questions from the public, yes, please.
पता नहीं फीलिंग आई आसमा में बैठे ठीक है
Hello.
Okay, I think we had a quite versatile discussion about data and everything. Just one question. All of you have been in the same industry for a very long time. One stopper for any company to become data-driven. What could that be? Just one-liner.
I did not understand the question properly.
Please,
Can you please?
Just
can you please?
one-liner. What is the largest or biggest showstopper for any company to become a data-driven?
Okay, so for me, I think as we said, change starts from the top. Okay, so at the top, there's a lot of complacency at times. Okay, so we did talk about this कि सेठ साहब हैं, अब उनका बेटा पढ़ के आ गया, ठीक है? सेठ साहब would have a different approach, the beta would have a different approach. So अब दोनों की needs को आपको cater करना है. So but yes, सेठ साहब has the biggest approach. Okay, so वो उसकी compliance के लिए you have to follow the traditional procedures. So or maybe you can make it more acceptable. So I think creating acceptance at the top is very important. Then getting results, if you have alignment at the top, is very easy.
So it's a mindset.
Yeah, it's a mindset.
It actually depends on the goals of the organization. Company की leadership क्या अपने goals set करती है, whether we want to be data driven or not. Yes, please.
पहली बात तो ये है कि यार सेठ साहब के पीछे क्यों पड़े हुए हो वो भी रिकॉर्डिंग के आगे अच्छा my take would be कि basically attitude because देखिए when you evolve into manual data driven analytics using Excel sheets into automated or autonomous systems a lot of hidden under the rug factors come into play and they become very visible. So transparency इसमें एक बहुत important factor play करती है and आपका जो attitude है और जो management का या leadership का या सेठ साहब का जो attitude है towards visibility is very important. Yeah, I mean, बिल्कुल. Mindset, yeah.
So just adding into it, I think awareness is the key. So when I'm talking about awareness, I'm not talking about the awareness of being data driven or the data itself, but the awareness of the possibilities. I believe that especially there has to be done a lot to let people know that what actually they can basically achieve from having the data with them. So I think for this, I believe that there should be awareness from the industry side as well as that in individual capacity within your industry. I think, for example, if I talk about the technology leaders, I think they can also play a big part into this.
And just to answer what you've mentioned, to summarize it in one sentence, it's either we do it now or we'll lose the race in this faster time. So it's the time to take decision.
So I think we should not test people's patience anymore.
Thank you.
So thank you very much for joining us. Thank you.